Fertility-wise, this just might be the most researched question online. How to boost progesterone levels. Hello lovelies, and welcome to another one of my videos in which we'll be talking about how you can raise progesterone levels naturally. Last week I posted a video on how to reduce estrogen, which is a huge issue for a lot of women, estrogen dominance, and the other side of that medal is actually low progesterone. So in this video, we're covering a few things that you can look into to boost those levels and boost your fertility. The first thing I kind of already touched on and did a video on last week, and that is all about tackling estrogen dominance. Because as I've been mentioning several times in videos, it is not about your levels of progesterone or estrogen per se, but it's more about the relationship between the two. So if you have a lot of estrogen but normal levels of progesterone, then you don't necessarily have a progesterone problem, but an estrogen problem, and you should be looking at that. However, you still have symptoms of low progesterone in that case. However, I do see a lot of patients that have both low estrogen and low progesterone, so this video is very worthwhile for you. And in many cases, there is estrogen dominance, but there's also low progesterone, so not just in relationship to estrogen. So a big thing that you need to be looking at when you're looking at progesterone levels is not just your progesterone, which is what I keep finding articles and videos on online and recommendations. The whole estrogen thing is ignored, but you totally cannot do that, because if you have low progesterone, that will lead to high estrogen as well. And as I said, estrogen dominance in itself can give you the impression that you have low progesterone. So the first thing you need to do after you finish this video is head on over to that other video, and that is how to tackle estrogen dominance. One of the things I mentioned in that other video about estrogen dominance is just as important for low progesterone, and that is detoxing anything that you've taken in the past synthetic hormone wise. So that could be the contraceptive pill, could be the coil that's hormonal, that could be the injection, but it could even be something like steroids or something like Roaccutane, which I've seen a lot with patients of mine. The thing is not that those hormones stay in your body and create havoc, but they leave an imprint on your hormonal system. And through homeopathic detox, you can get rid of that imprint and encourage your body to restore your super delicate hormonal system. Did you know that over the course of a lifetime, you do not produce more hormones than the size of a stamp? That is how tiny hormones are. And then you can imagine if there is a disruption in that system that has such great effects, how important it is to address that. So detoxing any of the synthetic hormones you can do homeopathically, and I've mentioned this several times, but there will be a link in the description below so that you can access the protocols that I have launched to teach you how to do it at home, so you don't have to wait to become my patient to do it. I've already had lots of people actually fall pregnant just by doing a detox of the synthetic hormones. And a special detox to mention for progesterone is detoxing steroids. And the reason for that is that steroids are produced by your adrenal glands, and your adrenal glands are also very responsible for producing progesterone. However, if you are using steroids or have used them in the past, or you're super stressed, that messes up your adrenals. And when your adrenals are messed up, that is going to affect your progesterone levels. And that takes me to the next point that you should really be looking at. And again, this is something I have mentioned before, and that is address your stress. If you are stressing out over life, and we all do, there are big problems, there are small problems, stress is going to be around. But if you don't learn to manage it, if you don't learn to rest, that is going to continue to affect your hormonal system, because our bodies produce stress hormones at the expense of progesterone. So if you have a very short luteal phase, which is from ovulation until your next period, or you see that you have very low temperatures in the second half of your cycle, that is really a sign of your low progesterone. And if you know that you've been living a stressful life and not getting enough sleep, that is something you really need to look into. A form of stress that you might not have thought of is over-exercising. And of course, we need to exercise to get our hormones in balance. Remember in the previous video, I reminded you to address extra fat because it produces too much estrogen, which in turn also leads to low progesterone symptoms. But if you over-exercise, that is again stress for your body. And the same applies to not eating on time. If you skip breakfast, hey, guess what? Your body thinks it's starving. So make sure that you exercise, but don't over-exercise, and make sure that you eat timely and you eat good quality food so your body feels like it's getting the nutrients at the right time. It's not going into starvation mode. Another important stress factor that you might not have thought of that I have mentioned before in videos that are related to detoxing, and that is any kind of inflammation in your body. So if you are often sick, if you keep getting colds, if you keep getting abscess in your mouth perhaps, or if you have endometriosis or just generally really painful periods, that is an indication that your body might be inflammatory. And if it's inflammatory, that is a stress on your system. I'm not going into this too deeply because I've already been talking about detox quite a bit in this video, but one of the inflammatory states that we can have is if there's metal toxicity. If there's metal toxicity in our body is going to attack those metals, and as a result, the tissues those metals are actually hiding in are being attacked. A good example is hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's. I often find with patients that they have been diagnosed with this, but what is really going on is metal toxicity. And as soon as they address the metal toxicity, their condition actually resolves. Isn't that amazing? Of course, this doesn't apply to everybody, but quite a few actually do get completely healed of this autoimmune disease when they address the metal toxicity. The link in the description points not just to the synthetic hormones detoxes, but also towards metal toxicity and detoxing that homeopathically. I've also got a couple of blog posts on my website that are on metal detoxes and how metals affect your fertility, but I promise to do a video on this in the future as well because it's a huge part of my practice. All right, now we've been talking about a few things that need to go out of our body, but obviously we need to put some stuff in our body as well. We're talking about nutrients. So let's talk about a few nutrients that your body really needs in order to produce enough progesterone. Generally speaking, for your hormones, what you need is enough vitamin D. Did you know that vitamin D is not a vitamin, but it is a hormone? It's something that we produce. So you can imagine if there is not enough vitamin D, which is a hormone, it's going to be a bit of a problem to produce other hormones, such as sex hormones like estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, all the stuff we need for good eggs. I find that the 400 international units in most multivitamins are not actually sufficient. I would start at least 1,000, and it really depends on your skin color, how much you're outside, which part of the world you live. So I think the best would be is if you do your own research in this area, have a look at Dr. Michael Holick and the vitamin D solution. He's written a book, he's got a website. You will be able to understand much better why this is something that needs to be tailored to you. But I have all of my patients on at least 1,000 a day because all of them are deficient in vitamin D. An important vitamin is the vitamin Bs, and especially because our adrenals really need them, and one of them is vitamin B6. Research has shown that supplementing with 200 to 800 milligrams a day hugely impacted progesterone levels of the women in the study. However, I don't want you to rush to a store and buy it and take these amounts because it's really important when you start supplementing this amount of B6 that you talk to a nutritionist or another health practitioner that knows their vitamins. However, I did want to mention it so you understand how important B6 can be for your progesterone levels. If you're not supplementing with magnesium yet, then this is something I would really recommend. Again, a lot of my patients are on extra magnesium because life is so stressful. We need magnesium for a healthy nervous system, but when we're stressed out, we actually use up magnesium so much more. And this is why a lot of people just need extra. In times of stress, I often recommend to my patients to take 100 milligrams 4 times a day with food. But again, I would recommend to discuss this with a nutritionist or a health practitioner or do your own research before you start supplementing with that. Especially because if you take too much magnesium, it can affect your digestive system. So if you've already started popping those pills and you notice that your digestive system is affected, then you know that you're taking too much. And then the last thing that I want to mention for this video today, because obviously there is more that you can do, but I don't want to overfeed you with information. I think I've given you quite a good deal of stuff to start working with. But the thing that I really love, and that is so easy for you to start implementing, and that is drinking red raspberry leaf tea. Midwives have prescribed it, and women have been drinking it for ages and ages for fertility boosting effects and for pregnancy, generally speaking. It has proven to boost progesterone levels, and it is so easy to do. You can drink it cold with some citrus and some stevia drops. You can drink it warm. It is such an easy win, right? And one of the reasons this is so beneficial is because of those vitamin Bs. So if you want to up your vitamin Bs but you don't want to go crazy with supplementing, then this natural herb is a fantastic way to supplement. Alright lovelies, I hope you found this helpful. If you would love to see more fertility boosting videos in the future but you haven't subscribed yet, then what's holding you back? Click on the button below this video. And if you want to learn more about improving hormone levels naturally, make sure to click on the playlist on your screen right now and head on over to that estrogen video I mentioned if you haven't seen that yet. And in the meantime, see you in the next video. Bye!